Take a slow breath. Let the weight of the day soften. Here, in this quiet corner of words and wonder, stories unfold like incense in the dark, gently, without force. If you find yourself drawn to truths wrapped in human longing, you're in the right place. Subscribe and let the stillness speak. The office always looked lonelier after 8 p.m. The hum of the printer, the soft tick of the wall clock, the pale glow of computer screens, everything conspired to make Ethan feel like the last man on earth. But tonight he wasn't alone. Lila stood across from him, her blazer folded over her chair, sleeves rolled up, hair in a loose bun that was starting to fall. She was laughing at something he said, her hand brushing his as they reached for the same pen. Innocent enough. At least, that's what he told himself. It had started innocently, late-night deadlines, shared takeout, venting about the boss. Lila was bright, intuitive, and sharp with her wit. Ethan liked her more than he should. He told himself he was just being a good mentor. He told himself that the pull in his chest wasn't real. But desire has a way of dressing itself in justifications. He was married, 13 years, 2 kids, a home that smelled of lavender and routine. But somewhere between the meetings and soccer games, something had dulled. He hadn't noticed how lonely he'd become until Lila began to notice him. That night, their fingers lingered a beat too long. She looked up. He didn't look away. No words were spoken. Just the quiet agreement of 2 people stepping over a line. It wasn't passion that drove them, not really. It was something deeper, more dangerous, the craving to be seen. Not as a manager, not as a junior associate. As something raw, unpolished, alive. The copier flickered as it spat out the final proposal pages. Ethan glanced at the clock. "Want to walk out together?" she asked, voice soft. He hesitated, then nodded. Outside, the city buzzed indifferent. They didn't touch, but the air between them changed. Thicker now. Charged. In the weeks that followed, that tension broke once in the back seat of his car, again in a hotel downtown. Then it became a pattern. Lunch breaks stolen. Conference calls ignored. Emotions tangled in shadows and secrets. And each time he returned home, he told himself it wasn't a betrayal. Not yet. But karma doesn't wait for confession. The office coffee tasted burnt, but Lila didn't care. She was glowing. She wore a new shade of lipstick, more daring than usual. Her heels clicked louder. There was something different in the way she moved, like she'd stolen a secret and made it her perfume. Ethan noticed. So did everyone else. Whispers drifted like smoke through the cubicles. He's spending a lot of time with her. Did you see how she looked at him? People didn't say it aloud, but it hung in the air like overripe fruit, ready to fall. Ethan's wife, Maya, had always been perceptive. That night she looked at him differently, not with suspicion, but with a softness that frightened him. She brought him tea without asking, asked if he was tired, told him he seemed distant lately. He kissed her on the forehead and said he was just busy. Lila, meanwhile, had begun to imagine things: vacations, a life outside the office, a version of Ethan that would choose her fully. She knew he had a family. She also knew what he said when they were alone. "You make me feel alive," he whispered once. "I haven't felt this way in years." That kind of sentence has a gravity of its own. They started using code words. Slack messages turned into late-night phone calls. She called him E. He saved her number under a fake name. Each deception built a house of cards, precarious, trembling. And yet, there was something addictive about it. The risk, the intimacy, the illusion of being special. Until illusions collide with reality. It was a Tuesday when Maya found the folded hotel receipt in his coat pocket. Not hidden, just forgotten. Later that night, Ethan came home to a silence too sharp to ignore. Maya sat at the kitchen table, eyes red, the receipt beside her cup of untouched tea. She didn't yell. That hurt more. "I know," she said. "I've known. I just didn't want it to be true." Ethan tried to speak, but guilt had tied his tongue. The next morning, Lila walked into the office to find her desk moved. No warning. HR wanted to restructure her role. It wasn't a firing, but it felt like exile. That night, they met at their usual hotel. She cried in his arms. "I thought you said this was different," she said. He couldn't beat her eyes. "I thought I was. When things fall apart, they rarely do so all at once. The unraveling is subtle, slow, a thread tugged here, a breath held there. But once truth pierces illusion, the fabric cannot be re-woven." Ethan moved out 2 weeks later. Not to be with Lila, he told her he needed space. He got a furnished apartment near the freeway, where he stared at the ceiling more than he slept. Maya didn't ask him to come back. She simply stopped asking anything at all. Lila, meanwhile, began to feel hollow. The excitement had burned out, leaving ashes she couldn't sweep away. She hadn't just lost Ethan. She'd lost her footing. At work. In herself. She checked her phone constantly. He didn't message back. They say karma is not punishment, but cause and effect. And this was the effect of mistaking emotional hunger for love. At first, they blamed the timing. Then the stress. Then the world. But eventually silence took their place. In Buddhist teaching, desire is a fire. Not because it is evil, but because when it goes unexamined, it consumes everything in its path. Lila had mistaken longing for connection. Ethan had mistaken being seen for being loved. They were both wrong, but not bad. That's the thing about human suffering. It's rarely rooted in malice. More often, it comes from confusion. They'd confused infatuation for intimacy, escape for awakening. The truth was they hadn't truly seen each other at all, only what they needed each other to be. It was a Zen master who once said, "When you look at someone and only see their usefulness to your pain, you are not in love, you are in grasping." And grasping, no matter how tender it feels, always leaves bruises. Ethan began attending a meditation group on Thursdays. At first, he said nothing, just sat there, letting the quiet hum of shared breath begin to stitch him back together. He didn't know what he was doing, only that he needed to stop running. Lila started reading, not about relationships, but about the self, about the mind. She found a yoga class that ended each session in stillness. At first, the stillness was unbearable, but then, slowly, it became her medicine. They didn't speak for months, and in that silence, something unexpected began to grow. Not regret, not resentment, clarity. The heart doesn't forget, but it can be retrained. When Ethan and Lila met again, it was at a mindfulness seminar in the city. Neither had known the other would be there. The room was full of strangers sitting on cushions, legs crossed, backs straight. They locked eyes briefly across the room. A nod. Nothing more. No spark. No storm. Just two people sharing breath in the same space, not needing to be more than that. During a break, they stood by a window overlooking a quiet garden. The silence between them wasn't heavy this time, it was honest. "I'm sorry," Ethan said first. Lila smiled gently. "Me too." That was it. In Buddhist terms, their story had run its course. It had played out its karma, and with the fire cooled, what remained was not bitterness, but understanding. The Dharma teaches that suffering comes not from desire itself, but from the belief that desire will complete us, that another person can fill the space we fear to enter alone. But the space, the emptiness, is not something to fear. It's where healing happens. So how do we prevent desire from turning into delusion, especially in the confined electric atmosphere of an office? Here are 3 ways to engage workplace desire without letting it overtake you. 1. Practice presence, not projection. 2. It's easy to confuse attention for affection or resonance for romance. Instead of chasing what you feel, sit with it. Ask yourself, is this clarity or is this craving? Recognize the hungry ghost. 3. In Buddhist cosmology, the hungry ghost symbolizes insatiable longing. You feed it, and it starves louder. When you feel drawn to someone with intensity, pause and notice. Is this person nourishing your spirit or just your wound? Let temptation become a mirror. Every attraction is a mirror. What do you admire? What do you fear? Use your feelings not as a reason to act, but as a path inward. What are you really seeking, a person or permission to feel alive? These techniques aren't about suppression. They're about transformation. Desire isn't the enemy, it's the invitation. But only when you bring awareness to it. Lila didn't go back to her old job. She moved to a different city, started a wellness collective. Ethan remained where he was, but with new boundaries within and without. They no longer followed the same orbit, but both carried the same quiet lesson. Some people are meant to awaken us, not accompany us. Sometimes the deepest love isn't the one that lasts, but the one that wakes you up. Years later, Ethan found himself walking past the same hotel where they once met in secret. But there was no sting in the memory, just a soft ache and a knowing smile. That man who he was then needed to break in order to grow. Lila, in her new life, taught workshops on emotional boundaries and conscious relating. She never used Ethan's name, but in every story she told, there was a thread of truth shaped by what they once shared. Neither wished to rewrite the past. It had its place, its purpose. In Buddhism, there's a teaching. In the seeing, there is just the seeing. In the hearing, just the hearing. That is freedom. To stop layering our experiences with meaning. To let moments arise and pass like clouds in the sky. When Ethan and Lila sat in stillness separately, across different cities, they both understood something at last. It was never about the affair. It was about the longing underneath, and the silent invitation to meet themselves there. If something in this story stayed with you, don't keep it quiet. Share it. Someone else may be waiting for just this kind of reminder. Subscribe for more stories where heartache meets healing and the unseen becomes known. Remember, even the darkest entanglements can lead us back to light.